The Mario franchise is the most colorful and childlike video game series out there, and Super Mario 64 is no exception. As I discussed in my last video about the paintings from the game, this title is home to over a dozen bright, colorful, fun worlds to explore. But there is one level in particular that has left many players with an unexplained feeling of unease. A level that contains one of the game's biggest and darkest mysteries. WetDry World. This level has been brought up again recently due to the popularity of the Super Mario 64 iceberg and the every copy of Super Mario 64 is personalized theory. And while most of the information being spread around is just made up of urban legends, and many fake videos claiming to be the real early builds of the game are being made, some points being brought up have a substantial amount of truth to them, one of which is the WetDry World negative emotional aura. What's this all about? Well, several individuals who played the game have discussed their shared experience of feeling weird about this particular level. There have been claims of feeling creeped out, lonely, melancholy, claustrophobic, anxious, a loss of desire to continue playing the game, and one person even felt somewhat nauseous when playing this level. Even I recall getting a little bit of a weird vibe when playing this level when I was younger, though not to a great extent. It just felt a little bit darker and different than the others. Why? What is it about this level that makes it so unsettling for many? Well, after doing some digging and reading different people's experiences, I think I have an answer. WetDry World is the 11th course in Super Mario 64, and is accessed later in the game. It features an interesting gimmick that allows the player to raise and lower the water to reach different platforms and unlock various paths, hence the level's name. The first thing that is odd about this level is its design. The textures are kind of bland, mostly stone and brick textures. There are parts of the level where it feels frustrating to play, as some of the platforming required can feel a bit awkward, especially the part where you have to use heave hose to give you a boost to the higher layers of the brick structure. And the level feels very much closed in. There is a wall surrounding the upper level, and a portion where you have to swim through an underwater tunnel to get to an enclosed area that, once you enter into, you cannot escape out of. This would explain the claustrophobic feelings. We'll get back to this particular area in a moment. Then there is the skybox, the surrounding atmosphere of the entire level. What's so weird about it is that while the other levels' skyboxes have a cartoonish look to them, WetDry World's is an altered photo of a real town in Caceres, Spain. It's a bunch of boxy looking buildings all lined up, abandoned, and submerged underwater. It's just so out of place in this game. Then there's the fact that the level is pretty barren of life. There are several enemies throughout, but many of them are robotic. The only friendly character is one Bob-omb buddy. It just feels really lonely, which is something that can actually be said about Super Mario 64 as a whole. Mario seems to be the only human who is exploring these levels, wandering around a giant castle all by himself. It can feel eerie at times. Then there's the music, which I definitely remember getting a weird vibe from when I was younger. It starts out as a cool beat featuring the classic underground theme. But there's this slow quietness to it, and as the level progresses there's this somewhat mournful synth sound that comes in that makes the music sound mysterious or somewhat forlorn. But let's get back to that enclosed area that you reach later in the level that I was talking about earlier, because it contains the most unsettling aspect of this level by far. The easiest way to access this enclosed area is to enter the painting at the very top, so that the water will be at its highest point in the level. Then you just swim over to the tall cage in the corner and jump in. You will then have to swim down this long tunnel, which can definitely feel a bit claustrophobic. You will finally arrive in this enclosed room which contains an entire town submerged in water. From this point, you'll have to lower the water level back down, and then you can explore the town. The town is abandoned, save for a few enemies that roam here. There are several buildings with doors, none of which Mario can enter. A few trees, a triangular statue within a central plaza, and some kind of church-like building. There are a few power stars to collect down here as well. But who built this town? Who lived here? Are they alive? Or were they drowned? How long has this town been submerged in water? Were we the cause for it? Why is it hidden behind a cage? Why is it within a giant underground room? There are so many questions raised here that we don't have the answers to. It's a mystery. And that mystery of whatever happened to the town of WetDry World and its inhabitants is the main cause for discomfort when playing this level. It's such a bizarre element with a dark implication that feels so out of place in this otherwise bright, cheery game that makes the level feel a bit creepy. Lastly, there exists this strange and confusing theory that WetDry World is a simulation of the human brain and its functions. Supposedly, the level is designed with some kind of AI that makes it conscious, and the strange emotional aura that is felt when playing the level is due to the fact that it's actually a functioning brain and is sending off weird signals. This is obviously not true, and is an incredibly far-fetched idea, but it's kind of an interesting concept to think about. The idea that this level is somehow thinking is really weird, and it just adds to the creepy atmosphere even more. So, with all that being said, is WetDry World a conscious, haunted, terrifying place? No, not at all. But does it give off a bit of a creepy vibe? Yes, I definitely think so. I do think that, as the discussion of this level has grown more popular, we look for deeper meaning and details when they simply aren't there to begin with. If you have a suspicion that something is off-putting about WetDry World, and you hear other people making up evidence that it's some sort of AI brain experiment, it's easy to start looking for these details and picking them out of the air when, in reality, there was no evidence towards that idea to begin with. This happens a lot when popular theories spring up about games and movies. Also, it's important to keep in mind that many of our first experiences with this game occurred when we were children. The world is a lot more unknown and intense at that age, so sometimes even things that weren't meant to be scary at all can come across as quite frightening to a child. But really, when you put the spooky theories aside, it's just a level, a memorable one at that adds a bit of a different texture to the overall experience of Super Mario 64. It's certainly a thought-provoking place to visit. But what do you think about WetDry World? Did this level creep you out when you were younger? Let me know in the comments below. I love hearing people's experiences about this game. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel, because next week I'm thinking about talking about another mystery, a creepy Easter egg within another bright, colorful game. I also want to give a very special thank you to each and every one of my patrons for making this video possible. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.